The Rally Cry tour starts on Thursday for the Canadian tour.
Hmm.
How are you feeling? Are you guys excited?
Yeah, we're really excited. You know, whenever we make a record, we're always thinking about how the songs are going to feel to play live. You know, we spend so much of our lives on the road, and yeah, it's been great. We had rehearsals last week, and the songs are feeling like they're in tip-top shape. And we had a chance to go play the songs in North America, in the States and in Europe before the Canadian leg. So yeah, everybody's feeling pretty pumped.
Great. So this is your fifth album, the first one in 10 years after your debut. So the feedback for the album is that like the sound is bigger. What were you guys trying to do with this album, and how do you think your sound has changed?
Good question. We never really are going for a particular like size of sound. It's not like we're like, oh, maybe we can, create like a big sounding rock record and play big rooms. It's more a matter of just kind of chasing after whatever is influencing us in the moment. And I feel like every year there's a whole bunch of new bands and artists that really affect the way we think about music. And so, every record is sort of a reflection of whatever we're into, at that time in our lives. So, yeah, I mean, I think one of the main differences, though, with this record is it's 10 songs. It's really kind of direct, and there's not so much meandering around in the production. All the songs sort of have, a purpose, I think, like all in the production. Yeah, I don't know. We're happy. It feels like a cohesive record to us.
I wanted to ask about the influence for the new sounds on the album, but it seems like everything I've read is that you have like a totally different set of influences for each song almost. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, the first song is, Hand Me Downs is influenced by Joe Strummer and Arcade Fire, and if you kind of go down the list, it's like there's like some New Orleans brass that gets in there. There's some Bruce Springsteen. There's a little bit of like '90s. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of everything I'd say on the record. But because to me it all can kind of work together because ultimately it's the same five guys playing the parts, and so you're going to have your own personality shine through in that way.
Right. When Frank Turner came to Montreal at the beginning, well, I guess last year now, I had a chance to sit down with him, and he said that for his Be More Kind album, he was trying, like you guys were a big influence for him. He was almost trying to write an Arkells album. And I was wondering if that was like a reciprocal thing. Were you guys trying to write a Frank Turner album in any way?
We've been influenced by Frank in so many different ways. There's definitely tricks and like musical moves that he pulls off on all his records that we're always taking note of. But also his live show is something to behold, and we are always taking notes on how he's able to entertain a big audience and yeah, that he's definitely a kindred spirit, and I look to him for a lot of inspiration all the time.
And both of you guys wrote albums that dealt with a lot of political issues, but when I interviewed Frank, I said political, and he kind of stopped me and said that he wrote a social album.
Cool.
Would you agree with that? Like, do you think your album is like political or social, or how would you kind of go about the way that you dealt with politics?
Yeah, I kind of like that. Frank's so smart. I'm not surprised that he'd come up with something clever like that. Yeah, I mean, I think to add to that, like a lot of our music is just about our community, and our neighborhood, and so it's like, and then how we have to interact with each other. So you can call it social, you can call it like a political record, but for me, a lot of the songs are about how we lean on each other, to get through life. So. Yeah, you could call it a number of things, but it's mostly about how we interact with each other.
And do you think that being Canadian, and I guess also like Frank Turner being English, and both of you guys spending a lot of time in the States, do you think that would have affected the way that you went about writing that album?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you spend a lot of time in the States, you realize how divided some parts of the country are, and I was thinking like, oh, that's a bummer way to live. I'm like, no one's here for that long, and it always just feels better to try to find common ground with your neighbors and your fellow countrymen. Yeah, so I'd say, spending a lot of time in America and recognizing the problems and seeing the problems that we have as well in Canada is definitely stuff that would inform me as a songwriter and would motivate me to sit down at the piano and try to work on something new.
And when you guys named the album Rally Cry, what were you trying to capture with that title?
Yeah, I mean, it felt, it's funny with music and art. It's a lot of times it's more about does the thing hit you in any particular way? Does it feel right? And because sometimes things that aren't necessarily technically right can actually be the answer you're looking for. And so with Rally Cry, naming a record's always really difficult, and because every term or every phrase means something a little different to each person. But when I suggested it to the guys, it's a lyric in the song Relentless. When I suggested to the guys, they all seem to kind of just nod and say, oh, that feels right, And it feels like there's a lot of passion, in the music, and it's this idea. A Rally Cry is sort of a call to, to your neighbors or to people in your community. It's not a very inward-looking kind of term. It's more of an outward-looking idea, a rally cry. And it seems to suit the themes of the record.
Mm-hmm. And before the record even came out, you guys had your big show in Hamilton at the Tim Hortons Stadium, and you called that the Rally. Do you think that was sort of like the feeling or the essence of the performance?
Yeah, we had secretly had the name of our album sorted out before we announced the Rally. So we kind of knew that, we'd announce this hometown show called the Rally, and then we'd announce a record right after called Rally Cry. And it all kind of felt like a cohesive thing.
Some people would say that maybe the Rally Stadium show was influential on the bigger, like more stadium sounds and the songs of this album. Do you think that's correct?
Not necessarily. I do think our band likes to have a good sing-along, and oftentimes the more people there is to sing along with, kind of the more fun it can be. So I'd say that to be true, but I don't know. I think we weren't like going for a stadium-sized thing. We were just kind of doing whatever felt the best in the studio.
After the People's Champ, you've adopted the name of the People's Band a little bit. What do you guys think of that?
We wouldn't give ourselves any sort of name like that, but I take it as a compliment. I feel like our shows are very communal. It's not about a band being up there on a pedestal and to be like viewed as any kind of savior. It's about being a part of something bigger than ourselves. And for us, the best shows are the ones where everybody's bringing something fun, where everyone's bringing their best spirit to the concert, and everybody's dancing, everyone's singing. So if people get People's Band from that, then that's cool. That's cool with us.
And how would you describe your relationship with your fan base?
I feel like it's a very like peer-to-peer kind of thing, like we're pretty, I think, generally accessible guys. We feel like we're pretty normal guys. I'd say people over the years have sort of grown accustomed to the spirit of the show and the thing we're trying to convey, and what we're trying to bring to the world as musicians. And I think that is one that is sort of welcoming and generally pretty joyful. And that's the vibe of our show.
And I think you do some like unique things with your fans. And for this album, especially, you've done some like different song releases. So what was the idea behind that? And I guess specifically, I'm talking about American Scream. You guys you put out a bulletin board down in Buffalo with a 1-800 line that people could call. What was sort of the inspiration behind that?
Well, we're lucky that we have all kinds of creative pursuits in this band, and of course, the nucleus of everything we do is the music itself. And if the songs are no good, then nothing matters. But once we're done with making the songs and we feel really confident in them, the next step is figuring out how to release them. And, there's so much music that's put out every single day into the world, and it's sort of I think, on us as a small business to try to find interesting ways for people to know about them and to hear them, because they're meant to be shared. It's like we work hard on these songs so people can hear them. And we thought it would be an interesting way to put out a song by referencing one of the lyrics, which is, talking about the billboards in America on the side of the highway, and do something a little bit mysterious and have people call in and hear the song like that for the first time.
And I think you referenced the lyrics also when you decided to release Only for a Moment at a karaoke bar with your fans.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Same idea. It's like, what would be a fun way for people to feel connected to the songs? I think there's, I feel like for me, my relationship with a piece of music can change if I have sort of a visceral, experience in the real world with it as well. So it's one thing to listen to a song on your headphones, which is a great start, but it's another thing to see a song live or to meet the band at a karaoke bar and sing the song there. It's like you'll think about the music differently if you consume it in different contexts. And so that was the idea. It'd be like a cool memory for anybody who was there that night, or somebody who saw it on the internet. And they might think about the song a little bit differently.
And at the karaoke bar, would you say that it changed your relationship with the song differently to release it that way and to interact with your fans?
Kind of. It's like the fact that people knew the words already. I think that was a pretty special thing for me. That's always a pretty amazing feeling.
Montreal gets a shout out on the album.
Yeah, Show Me Don't Tell Me. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the band's relationship like with Montreal?
We love Montreal. We've been there in the dead of winter when it's freezing, and we've been there in the middle of summer when it's beautiful. And yeah, it's such a unique city. It really, to me, as someone born in Southern Ontario, it really feels like you're being transported to somewhere in Europe or something. Like Quebec in itself has just like an entirely unique feel, and there's so much great music that's come out of there. So much great food, so much great history, I love playing in Montreal. It's that song is referencing a late night after Osheaga.
Oh, cool. After a Montreal show, I heard that once you performed with Frank Turner, you guys ended up at Jared Kesso's house until 6 a.m. playing a house party.
That is true.
What was that like?
Very spontaneous. Frank was looking for an after party where he could play some songs, and Jared, who we know, offered up his house. And I don't think Frank knew who Jared was, but didn't matter. Everybody just showed up, and it was a really memorable night.
I wanted to ask you about the song Relentless, because I think it's a kind of a different sounding song for you guys too, and it's about Gord Downie, and I was wondering if you wanted to talk more about the song.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think for me, I'm always looking for interesting characters to write about, and a lot of times with people in my community and friends or their personal experiences. But the song comes from a conversation I had with Paul, who's a guitarist in Tragically Hip, and he was talking about how hard Gord worked and how badly he wanted to tour and to express himself through his art. And he described Gord as relentless, like a dog on a bone. And I just love that expression. And a lot of our better lyrics are just things I've stolen from smarter people than me. I've always loved Tragically Hip, and they're such a great example of a band that is sort of like greater than the sum of its parts. I think those guys would agree that like the five of them together create something larger than any one individual. And I just like that idea. I like being part of a team myself, and that's what that song's about.
I was going to ask you what you thought was the boldest or most exciting musical move on the album, but I saw you guys had tweeted that it was Eyes on the Prize with a big musical nerd thread, you called it. And even when I heard Relentless for the first time, you guys had arranged with Indie 88 to have it air with the song meaning and the writing process. And I was wondering what influenced you to start sharing more of your influences in your process for these songs?
I mean, I've always been pretty open with the influences that we have in our music, but I haven't been as direct and to the point until now. But I only thought of it because people seem to like it. Like when I bring up, where a certain riff is from or a lyrical idea, I think people feel that much more connected to the music. And I know that personally, as being a music fan myself, is when I hear the backstory of where a song comes from one of my favorite artists, I always love it. Like I get such a kick out of, learning how a song or piece of art was created. So, I don't know. I enjoy talking about it. It feels like an interesting way to talk about the music itself. And so, yeah, that's what I like to share.
Does all the new musical exploration make the songwriting process a lot more fun for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we're always trying to expand our musical palette, and we're always trying to be, influenced by new and exciting things. And you're sort of just adding to your, as a music fan, you're kind of adding to your playlist, and what you'd, what makes your ears tingle. Like, we're just kind of looking for that. And whatever is new that makes our ears tingle is going to become a new influence. And the older we get, the more sort of, I wouldn't say, I'd say when we were younger, we might have been more insecure about listening to stuff that felt a little outside of our world. But the older we get, the more we realize anything can be on the table. Anything can be an influence.
Well, you start your Canadian tour on Thursday, and you're going to end up in Montreal on February 19th. You guys are playing the M-Telus with Lord Huron. For the show, you've partnered with Plus One. Do you want to tell us about that, the initiative?
Yeah, Plus One is something started by some Montrealers, Arcade Fire, and their friend Marika. And the idea is really simple. You just add $1 on top of every ticket sale to the show, and you can put it towards the organization that you care about. And for us, we are donating the proceeds to the Canadian Council for Refugees. And there's a refugee crisis in the world right now, and there's a lot of refugees coming to Canada, and we think it's important that if you're born into privilege and good fortune and good luck, then it's your duty as a human to help out people who don't have that same luck. And the Canadian Council for Refugees helps new Canadians get access to healthcare and legal services and all the other things you need, to get acclimatized to a new place.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to us. Good luck on the tour.
Cheers. Thanks so much.